Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back. This is Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host of this episode of the Networking RX podcast. Thanks to those who've subscribed, thanks to those who are listening, thanks to those who have referred others, and thanks to the many guests that we've interviewed. Today I'm going to talk about names, but before I talk about names, I'm going to mention a name, Dean Curry. Let me tell you about Dean Curry, and no, this is not a paid spot for Dean Curry. Dean Curry runs a business called Curry & Associates. What Curry & Associates does, it helps its customers and clients with payment solutions, credit card payments, debit card payments, e-commerce, anything dealing with e-commerce, gift cards, loyalty cards, software solutions for accepting credit cards, making sure data is secured, so on and so forth. Mobile payments. That's what Dean does, and that's what Dean has done for a couple of decades now. But the reason I bring Dean up is that Dean is also a franchisee of AmSpirit Business Connections. And so for a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, Dean is starting chapters of AmSpirit. He's working with chapters that he has. He's helping members become more successful. And then the rest of the time, the rest of the 60, 70 hours he puts in every week, he is operating his business, Curry & Associates. Here's the neat thing. As he works to build Curry & Associates, he's actually finding members for AmSpirit Business Connections. He needs to be networking anyway. And as he's building AmSpirit Business Connections, his chapters and his membership in AmSpirit Business Connections, those people are referring him clients for Curry & Associates. So if you're interested in having a similar situation, being a franchisee in AmSpirit Business Connections, and adding that onto the business that you're already operating, contact me through the email at the end of the program or the one we provide in the show notes. If you're interested, you can certainly contact Dean Curry. I'm sure he would be happy to talk with you. You can reach him. His phone number is 614-635-0639. That's the number right off the website. Or if you'd like, you can email him at Dean, D-E-A-N, at currysolutions.com. Curry is spelled C-U-R-R-Y, solutions.com. Okay, now that we've talked about that name, let's talk about names in general. Years ago, I was given the copy of the book, Bo, Life, Laughs, and Lessons of a College Football Legend. And it was written by Bo Schembechler and Mitch Albom. I suspect it was mainly written by Mitch Albom, but that's neither here nor there. Bo Schembechler, for those who don't know, was a legendary coach at, he was a coach at Ohio State, and then he left Ohio State and became the coach at the University of Michigan, which kicked off what they refer to as the 10-year war between himself and Woody Hayes. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I am a Michigan fan. I've been a Michigan fan before I got here, and I remain a Michigan fan, even though I've been here for 3+ decades now. And I'll probably take some crap for talking about this book from my friends who are Ohio State fans. And if you're not familiar, it's a very intense rivalry. We have lots of fun with it, and as a result, I'll take some ribbing for talking about this. But nevertheless, it's a good book, and I'm not going to go through the whole book because I don't do that. That's not my thing. But there's one section of the book. Well, actually, there's a lot of sections of the book. They're really good. It's very entertaining. But there's a part towards the end of the book that has stuck with me. I was given the book probably 30 years ago, and I read it as soon as I got it, and it's always stuck with me. But anyhow, just to kind of go through what happened, I won't read to you, but I'll kind of paraphrase. In here, Coach Schembechler was talking about his son who was in high school, and his son played high school football. He was a backup and not a great player. But at one point, there was a call, and his son took the call, and the son didn't come back in the room after taking the call. And he went and he found his son crying. And what he kind of prodded his son. If you've got teenage kids, certainly teenage boys, it's kind of hard to pull these things out. But Bo Schembechler was one of these people who He's going to get his way. He's a college football coach. And so he really kind of pushed his son to say, listen, I want to know. I want to know why you're crying. I want to know what's upset. And he said that a kid on the team, a kid named Joe, had talked to the coach, and the coach said he was going to be returning punts, but his pants didn't fit. And so Schembechler's son, whose name is Chip, was to give up his pants so this other boy could have them. And of course, that just infuriated Coach Schembechler. And what his son went on to say is what makes it worse is I'm the only kid on the team that doesn't have a warm-up jacket. And so when we go out for warm-ups, I stand out like a sore thumb. So not only am I not going to be able to wear my game pants, I'm going to be wearing practice pants. I don't have a warm-up either, a warm-up coat. And that infuriated Coach Schembechler. And what he says in this section is that, I've learned a lot through the years in coaching. And he had coached for a number of years before coming to the University of Michigan. As I said, he coached at Ohio State. He started at the university, or not at university, at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. So he has been through the coaching ranks, and he said he learned a lot through the years. And that moment really taught him a lot. It was probably one of the biggest lessons that he had ever gotten. And he went on to say in the story is that, with his team at the University of Michigan, he's got 125 players, and he views them all the same. Sure, he says, I spend more time with kids. I spend more time with kids who are the starters, the regulars, because you have to, but every kid matters. So I want to quote Schembechler real quickly here. Quote, if you watch my teams at Michigan, you'll notice they all dress alike. Full uniform, name across the back. All 125 of them. Do you know why? Because somewhere up in the stands, there's a mother and a father watching, and that is this kid's reward for busting his butt all week, end quote. Again, I read this book 30 years ago, and reading that, when I first read it, it just jumped out at me, and it stuck with me. And what that says to me is that names matter. People's names matter. And I hear from time to time that people struggle, I'm not good at names, and whatever it might be. Names matter, and you can't just dismiss somebody's name. It matters that it's spelled right. It's mattered that it's said correctly. All those little things matter, and you can't dismiss those things. Nothing in my mind is more important than remembering somebody's name, or at least trying to remember their name. And we can do programs, and we will talk about programs on how to remember names. There are little tricks and techniques, and some great people out there that have some wonderful things to say about that. But that's not the point of this here. The point of this particular program, this particular episode, is just making the point that names matter. It's important. It's important that you get somebody's name correctly. I once worked with a woman, and her name was Kimberly. God help you if you called her Kim. I worked with another guy. His name was Michael. In his mind, Mike was something that you talked into when you did a speech. He wanted to be referred to as Michael. And so all those things have kind of, from reading this little passage in the book, it stuck with me that names are important, and I want to make sure that pronouncing people's names correctly, that I do that, and that I spell them correctly. Mark can be spelled M-A-R-K or M-A-R-C, and to that person, it's important. I worked with a guy, and his name was D'Angelo, and most people, it might be D-E capital A, and his wasn't, and he wanted to make a point that it wasn't, and it was important to him. And so once you learn those things, you just need to kind of stick with it and know that that person's name is important. Again, networking is all about getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. And one of the simplest things you can do to show somebody that you respect them is make their name important enough to try to remember, important enough to just clarify, how is that spelled? How do you say that? You don't need to, and I know it's tough to remember names. Trust me, I meet lots of people, and trying to keep it all straight can be challenging at times. I've been blessed with a good memory when it comes to those sorts of things, and keeping track of people's names. I don't know why. People ask me how I do it. I don't know. It's just one of those things I'm blessed with. But even if I weren't blessed with it, even if you're not blessed with it, You have to understand that people's names matter. Learning them, spelling them correctly, saying them correctly, those things are important. Those things are important to building professional relationships, to building your network.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.